My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and it was dessert week.
It was. It wasn't people in a sandy area, as has been made fun of before, and it was good to see that Mel and Claire didn't go to that usual place that the puns go to.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, it was dessert week. We're obviously a little bit later. We probably could have done with our own sand, to be honest.
Look, thank you all for your patience. I am just being an old person having my back rented.
We've had a week. We've had flooding twice. We've had just
look, it's biblical times. And
I've done, and I'm not joking about this, 15 rats and a PCR this week, all negative.
Oh, look, don't forget our red spot of doom from the Bureau of Meteorology, where right above our suburb it said,
danger.
Thunderstorm, like lethal thunderstorm.
Yeah, it wasn't slight storm, it was lethal thunderstorm, dangerous winds, risk of death high.
And this came after we were stuck out the back bailing water.
For an hour. We were out the back for an hour in the pouring rain, bailing. I split my shin open.
My back got even worse. It's just...
We have had the So, I know I promised it last week, but I will guarantee you the Nav episode, which is recorded, will be out.
At some point.
The Ashley episode, which is recorded, will be out. We are talking to Hayden, which we were going to do until cataclysmic rain stopped us. And we are talking to Caramel.
Yes.
So all of these episodes will be out. I'm not going to give you the exact time frame because, I don't want to prompt nature to try something else.
No, look, I just want everyone to donate to the people who are really affected by the floods, the people in Queensland and Lismore and stuff. We're doing okay.
We've got some mould. I'm coughing a bit, but that's nothing compared to people that have lost absolutely everything.
We have a home still. We have areas for our cats to
We have a second story, which we can hide on.
Yes.
And if the floodwaters rose, we could come up to the kitchen.
If Gilgamesh just reappeared, or our Prime Minister finally gets his wish and he starts building an ark. I'm sure that's what he was waiting for.
Now, this was also a week, ironically enough, it's a week that opened with Caramel talking about taking some risks. So, Caramel, there were enough of those this week.
Yeah, we do not need to do any more risky business.
Now, when they were
wearing shirts and sliding across doorways.
No, definitely not. No joining Scientology. So, when they came in, the first comment I had for Kristie when they walked in for dessert week was, Hoda's joined Bewitched.
Yeah, because I'm like,
the all-Irish pop group.
Hoda is channeling the 90s hard. I thought she was going to be like the next member of the Babysitters Club. Those platform shoes, that style of shirt. But you're right, it is
denim.
It is double denim,
and the
flared denim too.
And then
what is old is new again, and that was even the 90s took that from the 70s.
Yep. But then they cut to Maggie.
Yes.
Who's the other member of Bewitched?
I know. She's the lead singer.
Come on, get it on. They were riding in a roller coaster of love.
Yes. Now, I do want to brag and say that for your birthday this year, I got you a cameo from one of the singers of Bewitched.
You did indeed.
One of the only members who's
Lindsay.
doing cameo. Lindsay's the only one you can get to do a cameo.
And so I woke up on my birthday at the end of last year before people say happy birthday. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
I woke up on the morning of my birthday to a message from Kristie, which was Lindsay from Bewitched singing me a version of Roller Coaster, which was wonderful and lovely. And obviously, it's not C'est La Vie. I would have wanted Roller Coaster, but either or, C'est La Vie. So dessert week. Now, I'm going to say straight up, I'm never usually a fan of dessert weeks because I think that the concept is so stupidly vague. And they kind of joked about it in the intro where they were like, so we've done this and this and this. What's the difference between all of those and dessert week?
Look, dessert week is essentially when the week leading up to your period. Where all you want to do is eat sweets, predominantly chocolate in my case. It's gotten better through the years as I've realised that it's usually a sign of a magnesium deficiency. Pro tip there for the people who are just dreading period week because they just don't have enough chocolate in the house. Soak in some magnesium salts. yeah, so that's how I interpret dessert week. And I think this is quite a nice array of what should be served to people with uteruses who are still bleeding, should be served every...
So what you're
lead
telling
up.
us is that dessert week is not so much about desserts, it's a lot more about what women in period week should be looking forward
Well,
to.
anyone with a uterus that bleeds. Because
Exactly.
it's not just women who bleed.
No, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. That wasn't
So-
me. That wasn't me casting aspersions.
No, that's just me acknowledging that we have a wide variety of people in our world.
Yes.
You know?
No, that's
That's all.
We're perfectly.
I know.
I accept it. I accept it.
Gosh, I'm not. Oh God, I'm not having a go at you. I know you're very.
I teach it to the masses.
I know.
I literally teach it to the masses, and that's my job. Anyway,
Yes.
baked custards.
All right, here we are.
So-
baking the custards.
We're in baked custards now.
And look, I know he says mustard, but all I have in my head is the walrus when they're doing like the walrus and the carpenter going mustard. Oh no, it's the tea party where he's like mustard. Don't be ridiculous. So I'm like custard.
So the funny part is that I didn't go to the
Ridiculous.
walrus and the carpenter originally when you went. I was thinking the walrus, and I'm like googagajoob. Like I'm trying
Well,
to
if you're the
think.
Eggman, you can be turned into a
Yeah,
custard.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, there is, because yellow matter custard dripping from a dead dog's eye.
There we go.
Is the yellow matter custard dripping from a dead dog's eye baked though, or is it baked custard? It's more likely to be bird's custard, to be honest, because it's the UK, and everything they do in the UK is bird's custard.
What's bird's custard?
It's the instant custard powder.
Oh, like our bingo.
Yeah. So bird's custard powder was the originally created custard powder, and it was created because his wife was allergic to, I want to say, eggs.
But wouldn't it have dried eggs in it?
It was either eggs or milk. I can't remember which one it was.
Ah.
But I think it was eggs. But she was allergic, so they made bird's custard powder to get around the idea that she was allergic to that.
They just took out the thing she was allergic to.
Yeah, but came up with a substitute method of making
I
it.
now know what I want. What it is.
Somebody's going to get in my comments and jump all over me on
Because
that, but it's true.
It's really interesting the shit that they create to be the substitute. So mayonnaise, for example. So diet mayonnaise, do you know what that's made out of? Mm-hmm. Lettuce slime. I watched a TV show that was showing you how different diet products are made. Yeah, lettuce slime gets you the non-eggy.
That's what you're after, ladies and gentlemen. Just leave that lettuce in the fridge a little bit too long. And you confirm, Alfred Bird,
Yeah.
his wife was allergic to eggs, and that's why he created bird's custard.
And the irony of having your name is Bird.
Oh!
So when she ovulates, was she
every month she breaks out in hives.
We're not even 5 minutes in, and this
We
is a
haven't
period.
mentioned a challenge. It's
This
a
is
period focus.
It's a menstrual heavy it's heavy flow. This
There's something for women having periods or people having periods everywhere right now.
Yep, just acknowledging the menzies.
Anyway, moving on. Matt pointed out that a good baked custard doesn't have bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
There goes my dream of making a custard based on the chocolate bar Aero. The bubbles of nothing that make it something.
What about a champagne custard?
It can't have bubbles. But it's going to be champagne. But it can't have... Matt, you've ruined us. Far more importantly, Maggie says that I want something that pushes my boundaries. I want some spice. And in my head, I'm going, no, you don't. I want somebody to turn around and make a chili and pecan custard and go on, Maggie. Have a go.
But then I guess she's using spice in its correct context, which is the flavors rather than heat, which is why people go, oh, it's too spicy. It's like, no, it's too hot. But then us bloody white people with our limited English can't differentiate between hot the temperature and hot the spiciness.
And hot the Spice Girls.
And hot the spiciness.
And again, they were people saying, the Spice Girls are really hot right now. And some people were talking about looks and making shallow judgments. And some people were talking about their trending ability around the world in terms of their influence on post-pop.
Who is your favourite Spice Girl? Oh, that's easy.
It was Mel C.
Of course, because she's a Liverpool.
Because she was a Liverpool supporter.
Yeah.
And I knew that she could sing.
Mine was Ginger. Still is.
There you go. Notice how nobody says Victoria. I don't even think David Beckham says Victoria. Anyway.
She's like, so love, who's your favourite Spice Girl? Is it me? And he's like, no, I'm a mad...
I love Emma Bunton. I love Emma Bunton.
Emma Bunton.
We will get into the actual episode. I
Yeah,
promise you. Let's get into the episode.
Baked
So,
custards.
Nerman was going with maple, ginger, and miso.
He didn't give up on miso soup.
He did not,
Unlike Bernard
indeed.
Fenning.
And he went with a black sesame twirl. I really enjoyed... Look, Nerman's flavours are always impressive and really sophisticated, but the thing I enjoyed a lot about Nerman's baking this week was... And I'm going to sound very food wankery right now. Is
You don't? Anyway?
I know. The sophistication around the way he presented everything this week.
Yeah.
It was so... Let's use a MasterChef word, shall we? Elevated.
Oh, it was totally elevated, you know? As Matt kept saying, this could be used in a 5-star restaurant.
If you went to a 5-star restaurant and saw this, you'd think, that's right.
And all I can think in my head is Matt just writing down notes of, next
Yeah,
week
Matt
at
goes back.
Aria.
Matt goes back to Aria that afternoon and goes, guys, I've just had a great idea.
He's like,
Can we put a black sesame twirl around everything? Everything. See that chicken dish over there? Want a black sesame twirl lid? Go. Just nothing but black sesame twirl. Like, we're going to call it Black Sesame Month.
And then they're like, but we're already serving a black sesame twirl. Put a black sesame twirl circle on
Put
top.
a twirl circle on top of the twirl.
twirl.
I'm not going to... I want twirl inception. Twirlception, as you will.
Some twirl on twirl action.
Twirlception. That's what I'm after. So, we then cut to Ella. Now, Ella went with a chai tea party.
I'm here for it.
Now,
I
was
love
here
chai.
for the concept. It was sweetened maple with maple sugar.
Yep.
And there was maple tea bag biscuits.
Yeah.
I think Ella was very creative in this episode here
Yes.
and in the showstopper. We'll talk about the showstopper. The only problem I had in this whole first section,
Was Matt telling her to use a fucking tea towel?
and this is not an
That's
Ella
not
thing.
it.
This is a Matt thing.
Absolutely.
And it's also a production thing because, look, we've spoken to people before, we've spoken to bakers before who talk about the idea of, as the judges go around, they'll give you little tips here and there on certain bits and pieces. What you don't normally do is have a judge give such a large tip to a baker
Yeah.
on camera
Yeah.
and leave that one in and don't show anybody else getting the feedback.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And I think, we're already dealing with a lot of...
Twiddle it up.
Yeah, like it just keep that out of it. Just edit it out.
It's not fan. It's not fan.
Edit around it.
Yeah, it
Throw
wasn't.
some more Mel or Claire in that point.
Yeah, just cut to Mel doing something funny.
Acting like a custard.
Acting like a custard. We'll come to Mel acting like a custard in a moment because you needed a moment. So the tea towels were the comment though. It was about how you're going to stop them. It was like, use a tea towel for keep them. I was like, Matt, just walk away, and then after that maybe come back and go use a tea towel to stabilise it. Because again, they do give feedback as they're going.
Yeah.
Just don't do it in that part of the on camera because it looks bad.
Yeah, it just looks like we're giving people
A leg up.
A leg up, and like Ella doesn't
She
need
does
it.
not need a leg up.
She's very skilled and very talented at what she does. So
Exactly. No, Aaron was going with his pot de creme.
yes,
So we had coconut and ginger, with then the lace cookie and then the chantilly cream.
a lot of ginger tonight. It's ginger heavy, and I'm happy for
A
that.
lot of coconut,
Less Liverpool supporter, more ginger.
a lot of coconut, a lot of ginger, a lot of lime as well, because there was lime involved in that as well. And like again, we got a lot of lime in the coconut, and they were stirring it all up.
Yeah, is it Harry Belafonte who sang that? No.
No, that's the Banana Boat song.
Yes, I can't remember.
Anyway,
We'll remember.
Jaywin. So Jaywin was making his Thai custard. Now palm sugar, coconut, and again lime. And the interesting element that became the drama point of the first challenge.
Harry Nilsson.
Yes. Now the fried shallots.
Yes.
I was a big fan of the idea of the fried shallots.
I was a bit worried that they were going to overpower, but then I'm thinking, no, you know what? He's saying his mum does this, and, obviously it works. So, I'm all for Jaywin
Yep.
doing new shit.
And also the side of the black sticky rice. And Maggie got really excited.
So did I. I feel you, Maggie. That fucking black sticky rice, particularly when it's like cooked in coconut cream. Oh. I miss yum cha so much.
Now we're going to cut to Carmel and we need to
I
have...
was going to Thai restaurants.
I know. We need to have a talk about Carmel though.
fucking plague.
We need to talk about Carmel.
Oh, good. Yeah, happy moments. Happy moments. Bunny
Now,
lady. Bunny mummy.
Carmel decided that she was going to push herself. Now, first of all, that's in response to this stupid narrative of pushing yourself, and it got so overused again in this episode, and a lot of people made it very well known on Twitter that the words push yourself need to vanish from the vernacular as fast as humanly possible. Well, I'm fairly certain that message is received. But what she decided to do to push herself is part of Bake Off lore, really. And I'm talking global Bake Off lore. So if you've not watched Canadian, first of all, how are you listening to us and have never watched Canadian?
Go do yourself a favour.
Go do that right now. Stop. We'll be here.
VPN,
Stop.
CBC Gem.
Yep, CBC Gem, VPN. It's legal
Perfectly
to do that.
legal.
They encourage you to do that.
Yep.
Go and watch it. All 5 series are there. You can go and enjoy the wonders and delights. The first couple of seasons even feature Canadian treasure Dan Levy. So you can go and enjoy that and enjoy all the delights. But there was a challenge in Canadian of Creme Caramel for a technical. Now, in this technical, and there is, again, a whole podcast episode dedicated to this one challenge, and we've brought this up with Bruno Feldison, the judge, who set the challenge. We brought this up in the grand final last year because the Creme Caramel made an appearance in the grand final last year. No one could make their Creme Caramel set, and what was delivered was a tray of puddles.
If you want to see the most perfect reaction that is both like laughing at the hilarity of it, but also laughing in the sadness of it, but also you can hear the cries of their French ancestors just echoing through the pavilion.
It's Bruno walking
Bruno's
in,
response.
and he was even in a fairly cool he was in a leather jacket that day too, so he was very more trendy. And he walked in, and he just looks, and he goes, "Guys, come on, seriously?" And everyone burst into hysterical laughter.
Yep.
So the fact that Carmel's like, "I'm going to do a creme caramel, and I'm going to do sponge sugar," and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
She is like, just pushing us.
You had to.
There was so much talk of pushing. I thought I was in a labour ward.
I thought you were at a Salt and Pepper concert.
This is the thing that I have to go and remind me to Google, right? I cannot remember if my first concert was Salt and Pepper or Janet Jackson, because I went to both of those. I think Salt and Pepper came out first.
Was it Salt and Janet?
So it's Salt and Pepper, and I think it was for their what was that one with What a Man on it? That particularly that tour.
Yes.
And I think that came out just before Janet Jackson's Janet tour. Because that's when I went to. So I need to Google and work out which one was first. You've just done it, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I'm setting up for the next thing, which is, what's up, Carmel?
Yes.
So we did ask her last week about what booze is appropriate for the bunnies.
Oh, yes. Okay, what is appropriate?
The answer was, Coco was a limoncello spritz girl.
Ooh.
Whereas Ponchy is a dirty martini boy.
Of
shaken,
course.
not stirred. Now, this week, there is no What's Up Carmel. Because the plan is that this week we will get to catch up on the interviews, which means, first of all, Hayden. And we're really looking forward to getting to talk to Hayden.
Yep.
There'll be a lot of musical theatre talk on that one. I'm going to give you the tip. And then
yes.
a basically long interview of What's Up Carmel?
Okay, so I don't want to tempt fate. I don't want to leave people hanging without bunny bits. Okay, that sounds wrong. I don't want them to boil away without some bunny. Hold on,
No,
that's
that's
also wrong. I don't want them to be...
Rabbit away furiously. No.
I don't want them to be hopping mad because they don't have any rabbit-based facts.
Information. Yes.
Because what if... Because who knows what the fucking world's got in store for us next week? Because this week's been pretty full on.
We might also mix them up and accidentally ask Hayden about rabbits and Carmel about musical theatre. So
that'd be fun. Let's do that anyway.
Let's do that anyway. It'd be fun.
I'm just going to come up with a thing. Rabbits. What are they like as indoor pets? Are they better or worse than a cat? Are they better than a dog? Worse
I
than
know
a dog?
someone who had a rabbit as
Do you?
an indoor pet.
Yeah.
Used to hop around the house, and they're a bit more of a pain than a cat because they're built more firmly.
Okay.
They roll through you.
Okay, well, here's an idea. Do rabbits swim? Like, if we're going to flood-proof, future-proof the world, do we have to move away from cats and 2 bunnies? Because 1, maybe they swim better, but 2, food source.
And with that...
Think of the apocalypse, people.
And with that, may I say that this is the last segment of... Yeah. What's up, Carl? We'll come back to this in a little bit later. Yeah. So let's move on. Now, Jaywin was really worried about what they were going to think of the fried shallots, and this became an ongoing issue. It was the first time he mentioned it. He said, my mum uses them, I'm going to use them, but but I don't know. But my mum uses, but I don't know. And we saw, this isn't the last time we're going to see Jaywin and concern about is what he's doing right or good enough. And we'll talk about that when we get to the technical. Then we cut to Hoda. Now, Hoda making... Knefe. So, knefe. So, I tweeted out the other night, you know, the only other time I've really had knefe was by Hoda. Not this one. the MasterChef alumni of MasterChef Alumni's Hoda, who made us amazing knefe.
I've had a few good ones. Little Beiruti and Concord do a pretty mean.
Yes, Gabby on Twitter did mention Little Beiruti by name. I'm assuming she's looking for a sponsorship deal.
Look, if not now, they need to sponsor Gabby.
They need to.
Frankly,
she's their best customer.
I'm sure she kept them going through the whole pandemic.
She was the only person booking out the restaurant. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. So Rosewater, Orange Blossom. The smart thing, as they pointed out, is that you don't have to do anything with it after baking. No. Because you're supposed to serve it in the containers, which Matt couldn't quite get his head around. He also wanted them in ramekins, and I'm like, no, they're usually in the pans,
metal.
like,
and
so much.
This is the thing that annoys me, right? Is like he's coming from a very Western chef viewpoint, and she told him outright, this is how you traditionally eat them. Yep. And if that's how you traditionally eat them, then that's how you bloody traditionally eat them.
Can we talk for a second, only for a second, about the fact that Maggie Beer has never had one?
That was really interesting to me, because I thought someone on MasterChef surely has served her up one, but I'm like,
it's
no.
Floral.
It's floral.
It's floral.
Custardy.
It's custardy. It's got orange blossom usually. Rosewater might be the thing because we know that she's.
But then there's savoury ones too.
There are, but I mean, Rosewater's more traditional.
But then maybe in what she's experienced, it's just not around because. Really?
Maybe they offer her up that or baklava, and it's very hard to say no to baklava.
I know. Yeah. She doesn't quite get that far along the dessert table.
Now, we found ourselves distracted immediately after this, especially the woman sitting to my right. Because at this point, we had Mel Buttle decided to demonstrate custard wobble.
Oh, look, I just love Mel. And like, I've had, such a girl crush on her since she was on Triple J. And then I find out she's gay. And it's like, oh, come on. All these years. I'd be too bloody, like, what's it called? Insecure now. But she's just beautiful. And she looked amazing tonight. And her custard impersonation was just fun and great. And accurate.
Then we got to cut back for one of my favourite moments whenever you see it in Bake Off. And it's rare you see it, but it's always fun to watch someone do spun sugar. And Caramel doing spun sugar. Now, if it was me doing spun sugar, some of it would have ended up over the stick. But the rest of it would have ended up over people's benches, over heads.
That's more
Claire would have been at a bench 2 over and get hit in the face with sugar.
People are walking their dogs past the shed, getting spun sugar. They're like, what is this?
And I'm just going, this is wonderful, and throwing it around.
You really are a one-man fairy floss machine.
I really am. Like, it's my calling.
If you hadn't gone into being a teacher,
it would have been human fairy floss machine. It was a tight decision I had to make.
I think your parents would have been proud either way.
I think they would have been more proud of the spun sugar fairy floss machine. I think it shows growth. Anyway,
I would have loved you no matter what. Maybe a little bit more
of the spun sugar. Exactly. Now, what I liked in the serving up here was that Ella was very cleverly hiding the one that she didn't like under the side of the display. And that one's not as good as the others. We're just going to push this one just under the side of the plate. It was very clever.
Yeah.
So, the judging. Caramel. The spun sugar had dropped, but that wasn't her fault. That was the time between finishing and judging.
But I think she was smart. She really piled up the spun sugar, so it's still obvious.
But I love the way she tried to explain it to Maggie, where she's like, it was really high, I promise. And Maggie's like, yes, it was very high. It's like, don't believe you.
She's like, not Chris Fairy Floss machine high, but
Look, Chris would have been putting it on the roof and it would have been falling down.
Spun sugar icicles. Just impaling people as they walk out of the shed.
They said that it was a little bit firm from the use of coconut milk, which made it a little bit more firm than a normal creme caramel. The flavour was still really good, but they did notice that the texture was quite firm on the creme caramel. And all you could hear was Bruno over in Canada going, so that's what they needed!
Some coconut milk in it.
J-Wings had a very good wobble. It was very delicate. It wasn't overly sweet.
Yes.
The saltiness worked for Maggie. She really liked the shallots. Matt wasn't a big fan. I thought they were overpowering.
Yep.
Ella, they said it had a very silky wobble. Matt thought it was very creative, what she'd done in the teacups with the chai and the biscuits. And they said dunking the biscuits was really nice.
Yeah, I think it was a beautiful concept and beautifully executed.
Yeah, they said it was fantastic and well balanced.
Chai liked it a lot. Now I want a chai.
Now, Nerman. Matt thought that they looked very fine dining, as we said. The flavour was unbelievable. They said the black sesame was superb, but they said the custard was slightly over.
So close.
Now, Aaron. Now, unfortunately, with poor Aaron, the coconut that he was trying on top didn't work, and they referred to it as napping cream, and you went, "Oh,
it's me! It's me
you.
in cream form." I got friends of mine that call me Krispy Kreme.
Yep.
Because after the donuts, and they're a little bit rude like me, so I get asked if I'm cream filled or jam filled or just plain at the moment. It's quite invasive. They're a lovely pair of gay boys. But here I am in another cream form.
Napping cream.
Napping cream.
Not sharing too much at all. They said there's no wobble.
No, I just nap a lot. Okay?
No, you do. I know. No wobble, but by God, they were flavourful.
Yes.
And that's what they said. They said there's absolutely no wobble, but they were like, the flavour is really good on these.
Yeah.
Hoda. Now Matt wanted them in a ramekin. Nobody else wanted them in a ramekin, so that didn't matter. Maggie...
You could just hear all of Hoda's ancestors going, no ramekin!
Maggie loved the balance, and the texture was really good for Maggie,
and
very much.
So pretty.
They looked great.
Yeah, they held really well. I would have been all over those. I like how Hoda was seen afterwards just having a little nibble on
Hitting
them.
it going. Yeah, no,
they're
it's
good.
And again, her use of the pastry on top too. She did the trimming. It was all perfect.
Yeah.
The technical. So it was Matt's technical, and he said it was military precision, baker blinder, and whoosh, whip it good. Now, first of all, Devo threatened to sue at that point, so he pulled back on that bit.
And Madam Lash went, I'm here.
I'll
help.
Can I also point out that when Matt saluted with military precision, it didn't so much look like a serviceman as a Benny Hill sketch. Stick your finger in your ear and go ting-a-ling-a-loo. Because he did the Benny Hill fingers over that. Rather than a proper salute, he did the fingers tipped on the head, looking very Benny Hill in nature.
Was he in the army, or am I just making that up?
I don't think he was.
I know, okay, so maybe he is just a fan of Benny Hill instead.
Now...
Just yakety sacks around the...
around
the paddocks.
Some of these challenges... Oh, well, what they could have done is, rather than talk about Matt and Maggie going off for a nap, what they could have done instead was they could have, for the entirety of the 2 hours and 10 minutes, run around the fields with yakety sax playing.
But I'd like at that point that Matt's the one in the bikini
completely.
and Maggie's in the hat.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The Benny Hill.
It serves the purpose.
Yeah.
So it was Matt's first business making tarts for sale. Now the raspberry tart version 2.0, it's in his cookbook.
So he was a baking pimp.
It is.
He's selling the tarts.
It's in his cookbook. The version 2.0. Now I'm going to be
like garbage, like their
version 2.0.
Yeah.
I'm going to be that person.
Or like Bill Gates releasing Windows.
I'm going to be that person.
But remember when that was the big thing? Like, ooh, it's going to be 2.0. And it's like...
And then it became I.
I know. Or like X. Or...
It went X and then it became I.
Yeah, it's like, oh, God.
That's why the Top Gear car was called the Eagle Eye Ham Thrust. Anyway, and then Jeff. So So I look forward to Matt's third raspberry tart, Jeff. So, okay, so I'm going to be that person.
You're always that person.
I'll get there eventually.
Unlike me, I'm always that bitch.
All right, I'm going to be that person.
All right.
I'm going to say straight up, this is not a raspberry tart. This is a tart topped with raspberries.
Yeah.
It's not a raspberry tart. The raspberries are not a key part of the tart. They are a topping. They are literally a topping.
So,
it's a white chocolate tart topped with raspberries.
So you're telling us that the raspberry component of this should have been a raspberry filling?
There should have been a raspberry coulis. There could have been a raspberry curd. There could have been a
Jam.
raspberry jam. Anything in there, and then the raspberry. It's a raspberry tart. But the raspberries were, except for Hoda's, who had sunk into hers. But
And so
the
did
raspberries,
Aaron sunk into.
yeah, but the raspberries were not in the tart. The raspberries were on the tart as an aftermath thing. You did nothing to them. You just put them on top. So therefore, it's not a raspberry tart. It's a white chocolate tart, which sounds lovely, topped with raspberries.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with this because I'm not having this. I don't care. I don't care enough.
I'm not.
I'm sorry. I just don't care. After the week we've had, this is the least thing I give a shit about. But I'm glad that you feel so passionately about it because it shows that you haven't reached burnout yet. Alright, moving along with a white chocolate tart.
At this point, Aaron said that he was not a fan of short crust pastry, and I am here to agree with him 100%. I would even contemplate making puff, but I would never contemplate making short crust. It's just too pissy.
Is
It's
there
annoying.
a long crust pastry?
No, there's not.
Just an average crust pastry.
And
Just
Nerman
medium.
tempted the fates by saying that he enjoys tart baking.
I enjoy tart baking too. It's whenever I'm whenever I'm baking, it's a tart baking. So
Now, you know that short crust is a bit of a pain when Matt actually gives you a time frame in the technical. He's
Yeah.
like, you need this long for the pastry.
must be this high to ride. You know, there's a safety point right there. You know, when it's not just until golden or just a little bit vague recipeing.
Now,
That's a crucial point, crux point. I don't fucking know.
Now, what I will say is that I really appreciated with the white chocolate filling, the way the white chocolate filling was being done.
Yep.
I really appreciated the fact that rather than just melt the white chocolate and put it in there to make it caramelize, it was melt the white chocolate in the oven. So it was actually a technique-based thing where you had to put the white chocolate on there, put it in the oven, let it bake down so it started to melt. It was 5 minutes or until it's melted properly.
Yeah.
So it just started to slightly caramelize on the bottom to give you a different texture than just, say, taking the chocolate and putting it in a bowl and gradually bringing it to temper.
Well, white chocolate is quite nice when it's taken to that kind of golden, like...
That's why people like caramel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, most people.
I know you don't.
Which is why you always buy it. So you're like, I've got
It's
chocolate
the
that you will
chocolate
not
I
eat.
guess. It's the chocolate I'm guaranteed to get.
Yeah.
But I liked that part of the technique, and this is what I'm saying. I don't hate the challenge. I think the definition's wrong.
Like, this is how much I don't like caramel milk, right? Even if it's in that week, the magnesium craving week that we talked about extensively at the beginning of this podcast, I won't eat it.
No, she won't.
No. My uterus rejects your offer of caramel. Not
Now-
that you were offering.
At this point, we got to the whipping of the cream.
Yep.
Look, they all helped each other. The horse is bolted. It's down the garden path at this point.
Yep.
The stables are empty.
Look, at this point, you know, you could bring in some sous chefs for everyone.
Yeah,
You wouldn't bat an eyelid.
At this point, everyone gets a phone a friend to a restaurant. You can ring people up. In fact, you can go out and get Matt and or Maggie and bring them in and just get Matt to put... Look, Ask Matt if you can put a tea towel down on top of
Tyler,
one.
Bruno,
Yeah, you should be able to
Paul
bring
Hollywood.
You
just
should be able to
whoever.
bring in one judge from any other series
or
of
a
Bake
winner.
Off.
You know, Olivia just wanders in to whip it up for you.
Yeah, you can bring anyone that's been on any other version. You can't have Matt or Maggie, but you can have anyone
Well,
from any other version of Bake Off globally.
Yeah, Barb comes down just to give you some nougatine ideas.
One of the South
just-
Africans comes in and asks you to clean up their bench.
They send some of them
They send the help.
the help.
Yeah, you bring in someone from Italian Bake Off, and really only Carmel can communicate with them in a meaningful way.
You need something trampled. The mammoths are there from New Zealand for you. It's
no one's bringing in the Kiwi judges, but look, you should be able to at this point of time, forget the idea of not helping. Everyone should get help. You should be able to bring in whoever you want.
Nonna. Like, I'm making my mum's recipe. Jaywin should have been on the phone. Mum, can you just come in and cook your shallots for me?
Look, I want to pause the challenge for 5 minutes. I've got someone coming in an Uber.
Just a chopper in the background.
They're like, there's a real... I know the answer.
What?
So we know, obviously, where, it's shot in Concord.
Yeah.
Right? If you go up a little bit, one of the greatest cafes that does really nice desserts is about, 10 minutes away?
Yeah, if that, just go down there, buy one.
No, ring them up.
Yeah.
Can we borrow your chef for about an
Hour.
hour? It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. Can we borrow them for an hour? Just come down here. We're trying to work out how to do this. Can you come and help us?
You know who else is 20 minutes away? Probably from there. Adriana Zumbu. Just over in Roselle. He can pop over.
Take a jet cat.
Yeah.
He can take a jet cat.
Aria is literally up the river. Like, you could
Just get Matt's
jump
phone,
Yeah.
ring his head chef.
Pop him down. Yeah,
We know Matt loves this tart, so you've obviously had to make it
Yeah,
before.
your boss
How do I
is here.
do it?
Yeah.
I want to make your boss happy.
Yeah.
If your boss is happy, he'll come back tonight and he'll be in a much better mood. Why don't you just give us one of those pre-made? So this is what the technicals become.
Yeah.
What I will say is that if you're going to have everybody going in and helping everybody else, the best use of that I've seen so far was when poor Jaywin was
Having a moment, yeah.
really having a moment. And you could see that Ella was over trying to talk to him, and then Carmel came over, and Carmel moved into full mother hen mode.
Yeah, and it was beautiful. And that's kind of the level that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah, like it wasn't technique. She's like, no, you know how to do this. You're good enough to do it. And it was convincing
It was more
him.
emotional support than telling him how to do it.
It was. She didn't tell him how to do it. She's like, you can do this. You know how to whip this. You know how to do this. You're good enough to be here.
Like, she wasn't telling him anything that wasn't already on the recipe or that wasn't in his scope.
Yeah, the only
Just
thing,
give him a
somewhat
bit of love.
ironically, the only thing that she said was she's told him about not over whipping his cream.
Pop
And
kettle,
maybe,
kettle,
and
Carmel.
we didn't see it, but maybe while she was over there telling Jaywin not to over whip the cream, her cream was whipping.
Look, I don't think she over whipped the cream. I think she went too hard on the nay-nay.
And that's what happens when you nay-nay?
Yes, that is what
We
happened.
did ask that last week, so now it's good to have an
Splits
answer.
happen. It's the nay-nay.
Yeah, the splits happen with the
Fucking
nay-nay.
Willow Smith.
Yeah. So, Mel then came over and made one of the most bold assumptions that...
Oh no, Willow Smith. She did the whip my hair back and forth.
Yeah.
I'm just getting my song whips all incorrect.
Yeah, there's so many of them nowadays.
Oh,
Um,
we need more kind of different actions, like baking actions in songs. Like, should we have like less whipping, more like
Salento's
mixing, laminating?
whip nay-nay.
Okay, Salento.
By the way, I love that because the opening lyrics of that song are "You already know who it is." No, we don't.
No, we don't. I never heard of you.
No one. No, again, you don't do what Jason Derulo does and
We
announce
won't
yourself
know
at the
you.
start of every song.
Yeah, it is something that I think they need to bring into Australian Bake Off just for the first 3 to 4 episodes.
Everyone announces themselves.
Everyone announces themselves. You
Oh,
know?
so a bit like you're thinking very much. You want what you're looking for is Rob Lowe in Parks and Rec.
Yes, exactly.
Just announcing everybody.
Yes. Hello, Anne.
So
No, what's her last name? I can't remember. Anyway.
So Mel made a bold assumption that Nerman reads a recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nerman's done a bunch of Instagram lives, and I think he's made it pretty plain there. He doesn't read recipes.
No, he just intuits.
And I love the way she's like, yeah, you've read the recipe, and Nerman's like, right.
Yes,
Of course I've read the recipe. Nerman doesn't read recipes.
It's like, I assume you've read the recipe.
Like, she's looking at it going, oh, okay. Now, Aaron then showed his confidence, of course, with his mortal enemy, which, of course, as we said, is short crust. And he has another mortal enemy in the showstopper. We'll talk about that in a moment. He looks and goes, the pastry seems fine? I've never heard anyone sound more insecure about pastry.
Just question marks all over the place. Like, it was an inflection upwards.
Yes.
Yes, that was very clearly. Yeah, it made us know where he was at.
And now we got to the blind baking, and I love the blind baking because I recently bought baking beads because I'm trying to be a bit more professional in the kitchen. So I'm looking at that going, I do something that they do. I'm like them.
Yep, you're exactly like them. You and your fairy floss machine yourself.
Flailing fairy floss.
Flailing fairy floss.
And then they had to make the nougatine as well. And now the question with the nougatine was it light amber? And Aaron got there before I did. Where Aaron's
was it nougatine or just praline?
No, it was nougatine.
Oh, okay.
And, again, we've seen nougatine made in that shed before.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, we should have got Barb in.
Yeah, Barb could have been Barb could have come in and shown you how to make nicotine.
Yep.
So Aaron got there before I did when he said, I knew it Amber who wore too much fake tan too. Now for me, that was a 90s reference to Amber, the pop starlet, and this is your night, night and free until the morning light. That's Amber.
Don't you love, like, the songs from our youth that you have or you do, because that's your fucking head. But I'm talking to the people who were listening to the podcast going, did not know Amber sung that. Knew the song. I could sing the lyrics along to it. All night.
She's also one of the members of Stars on 54 when they did the If You Could Read My Mind. Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's the one who has that. This is like a paper back now. That voice. That's her.
Oh.
It's a very Amber.
She's like the precursor to Taylor Dane.
No, she's after.
She's an after Taylor.
Taylor Dane was first.
Okay.
Taylor Dane was first, not actually
Being
enunciating.
Your shelter, that's right.
Yeah, Taylor Dane was the first one of those who didn't enunciate any words. Anyway,
we're so gonna get sued.
I don't care. So Aaron's mix was a little bit too thin. However, Carmel went the opposite, as we said, and completely split it. It looked like she'd made ricotta.
Look, I felt for her at that moment because, it was that perfect thing of I just turned away for a moment, and her turning away was to go and help Jaywin. And I'm sure she wasn't whipping it at that point, but it's just, yeah.
I think the biggest disappointment from the flooding is I didn't get the game card out this week, so no one got to drink off the back of that.
Yeah.
So now Jaywin, what I have really appreciated just before this, we got to the plating. Jaywin's tart overflowed, and his response to it was to put a shard and a raspberry on the little bit that overflowed outside of the case.
Like, raspberry of the overflow is the follow-up to Banjo Patterson's,
Oh, forget Clancy the overflow. It's all about Jaywin of the overflow.
Yes. That said, there's a lot of overflow things we could mention about the topic that we started the podcast with. But
and we won't, because Jaywin then said, I sharded myself. And we know what he meant.
But, Scott Morrison just nodded in agreement, knowing and remembering Engadine Maccas.
So the judgment, harsh on ScoMo, but not so harsh on the bakers. So warm when the cream went in for Jaywin's, but the pastry was great, the mix set well, and it ate really well. Nerman's pastry was cooked, but it could have gone a little bit more because it wasn't brittle enough. The pastry for Ella's was perfection. It was crisp, it was buttery. They said it was a brilliant tart. Carmel's was precise and the tart shell was perfect, but the mixture curdled, so there was no volume. They did, however, say that her white chocolate flavour was still really good.
Yeah.
Aaron, some precision, but some thrown on. And you can see it. There was somewhere it started with rose and then time ran out, so Aaron's just like bombing it.
Mutiny! Mutiny! It was a raspberry mutiny.
They said it was too thin, but there was good flavour.
Yeah.
And Hoda, the mousse was too soft. The pastry looked great though, and the chocolate tasted really good. And you can see the mousse was soft because the raspberries had actually become structurally integral to the tart. Not that it matters. So, Carmel, 6th. Aaron, 5th. Nerman, 4th. Jaywin, 3rd.
Woo!
2nd was Hoda, and 1st was Ella. And again,
well deserved, Ella.
it was all well deserved.
Killing it.
They all did pretty well.
Yeah.
Takes us to the showstopper. I just skipped the round table. We don't bother with that.
Yeah.
Dessert charcuterie board. 3 different desserts on it, 4 hours. Now, Aaron did clarify, because we mentioned while we were watching, that Carmel did fudge.
Yeah.
And Hoda did Rocky Road.
Yeah, they're not baked.
Now, on Twitter, on Thursday night, Austenite tweeted out about the fact that they're not baked elements, and Aaron did comment on Twitter publicly that in the brief it said 2 of the 3 elements had to be baked. So that's fine, they hit their brief.
Yep.
Now, what I am going to say, dessert charcuterie board. A charcuterie board has a very firm definition, which is meats.
So charcuterie means meats?
Yeah, so a very firm definition.
Is that in French?
I looked this up the other night. So, charcuterie. Charcuterie is a French term for a branch of cooking devoted to prepared meat products, such as bacon, ham, sausage, terrines, galantines, ballotins, pâtés, and confit, primarily from pork.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So, and again, a charcuterie as a place is a delicatessen specialising in dressed meats.
Yum.
So, the word charcuterie has a specific meaning to it. When I first heard that, I'm like, oh, they're going to make them do bakes that
have like sweet meat or like meat in it.
They either have meat in them or
look like meat.
Look like a charcuterie board. So, you've got to make a baked version of a salami or a baked ham or a baked prosciutto.
Yeah. Something
that looks like it. So it's that, as Ella pointed out in her one, things that look like other things but aren't really things.
Yeah.
Or, again, a charcuterie baked, so you could do tartlets or whatever with meats inside them.
Or like your you know how you have your olives and your artichokes and stuff like that go with it. Yeah. Okay.
What this is
a grazing board.
It's a dessert platter.
Yes.
A dessert platter grazing board would have been fine. You could have called it that. My only issue with this is that makes the brief vague. Now, what I will say is every single baker nailed this.
Oh, absolutely. There's how can I put it? If you were going to be judging people on just the showstopper, it would have been very difficult.
Yeah.
You'd be pulling hairs to try and do it.
So I think everyone did very well. I think that the definition of this was a problem. But I think what the bakers then did with it was great. So again, it's the only criticism I have of this at all is that I know it's trying to be trendy by using the word charcuterie, but don't. It's very specific. That would be like saying, you're doing a creme caramel, but then you were just making a caramel tart.
But even then, charcuterie itself, yes, that's popular, but what has been the popular trend are grazing platters.
Yes.
That's what you see everyone doing. Grazing platters used to be something super fancy, and charcuterie, the greatest charcuterie I ever came across was at my friend's wedding, which was down at this lavender farm in Dalesford, and it was Italian, and I would have just been happy with the whole fucking table. It wasn't just a platter, it was a whole table, and this is before you went in to eat, and it was my dreams come true, and I almost cried when we only spent literally 10 minutes with this fucking table before we were being ushered away from it. And I'm like, I found my heaven. Just leave me here. I mean, the other food was good, don't get me wrong. And the limoncello at the end was great. But, that was awesome. So anyway, we've gone from these fancy things to, we just went to a friend's house and she's just, a typical career mum, wife kind of person, She cooks wonderfully. Great barbecuer. Alice is just fucking all over the barbecue. But I was quite surprised. You and I, we just put out cheese and crackers and shit. No, she did a full grazing platter.
Well, I mean, this one went around on Twitter, the one I'm showing Kristie now. This one went around as a charcuterie. That's Gabby's.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Gabs does amazing charcuterie.
If you go at Gabby L. Cleary on Twitter and go and have a look.
Everyone become friends with Gabby. She feeds you well. You'll just be sitting there at her house having a chat and then she disappears and comes back and goes, try this, and hands you a spoon of deliciousness.
Sponsored by Little Bay Rudy.
Yeah.
We're working on it, Gabs. We're working on it. Okay, so anyway, let's get into the charcuterie boards. We're just going to call them dessert platters because fuck it. So, Ella. Now, Ella came up with the idea of breakfast. Now, again, if it was a normal charcuterie board, I'd have an issue with this. It's not a normal charcuterie board. It's a dessert platter. And therefore, this was really clever.
And it was so beautifully presented, and it looked delicious.
So the cake, which was supposed to be Vegemite toast.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I disagreed with was, and I think this might have actually been the thing that cost her in the end, was putting Vegemite in the chocolate. I actually think it might have cost it because I think it tasted too Vegemite-y when they did the judging.
Yeah.
And it's probably the element that they didn't like as much. And like, Matt didn't like the fact that it wasn't really toast, it was a high cake, and he would have wanted the toast a bit lower.
Oh, like, sorry, have you not heard of, like toast?
The Japanese bread.
Like Japanese bread or thick cut toast? Like,
look, I would eat toast that size if I had one of those $300 Japanese toasters that does a single piece of milk bread at a time.
yes.
I really want one of those, by the way.
Why?
Because
you've got enough gadgets and one that just makes one piece of toast that's not even...
Because I'm a food wanker. Anyway, moving on.
This, yeah. That's true.
Wheat Bix Blondies with burnt butter.
They looked cool.
And Fruit Loop melting moments, which was, I thought, quite clever.
Now, what made me happy was knowing that Ella's a Wheat Bix household and a Vegemite household, because in Australia, there's a very clear divide growing up of the Wheat Bix people and the Vitabrits people, and the Vegemite people and the Marmite people.
Nobody's a Dick Smith, whatever that one is.
No,
Chromite.
that's just...
No one likes that.
No one likes, someone who wants to kill half... No one wants the Thanos of billionaires.
No, exactly.
But I have to share, I was really taken aback because my younger sister and I grew up on Wheat Bix and Vegemite. That was the line that we lived on.
Drew, yeah.
My niece and nephew are growing up on Marmite and Vitabrits.
We need to get them out of there.
I'm like, isn't that child abuse? Isn't that like she's already agreed to let them be Catholic? Like we're not Catholics. Like, she could have thought, okay, you can have the religion if we can have the...
She could have stuck up for the important issue.
Exactly. Like, who cares what they believe? You can change your religion as you get older, but your taste is formed at that age.
Religion is religion, and whatever you choose, run, don't walk to that. But Vitabrits.
I know, and my dad and I are both quite taken aback. So we make sure they try and get Vegemite at every opportunity just to try and counteract this crazy, as long as it's not Bovril, I guess.
So Aaron continued his second blood feud of the week. Yes. This time with the clock. It's like my mortal enemy this time is time. It's like, that's the second mortal enemy in an episode.
How many fucking enemies do you have? Like, that's
what
why
he's
got the symbols on himself. He's a fucking airbender. That's what's coming out of this.
What I really appreciate, though, about
one-man anime show.
What I really appreciate about Aaron's mortal enemies, though, is it's nothing like ultra dangerous. It's the clock and short crust pastry.
No, he's right though. Time eventually does catch up with us all.
It's not an immortal enemy so much as it's always victorious. That's not a mortal enemy. It's inevitable. Anyway, Jaywin. Now we will talk about what you baked, Jaywin, obviously, but I want to talk about the fact that you got that little dog and the candle from your awesome partner.
Oh, that's so cute.
The Jaywin candle. Again, a baker and needy boy.
Yeah.
Again, that's his Instagram, people. Needy boy. But I absolutely...
Like K-N-E-A-D.
Yeah, I love that little candle touch. I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah, no, what a thoughtful thing to get for someone that you're not going to be able to see for a while. That's really lovely.
And Jaywin, I'm being ultra nice to you here because you know what comes next. Matcha and Choc brownie mooncakes.
But they looked good. Like, the mold was such a lovely touch, and he's doing bloody fortune cookies. That's great.
And the fortune cookies, the passion fruit. So the passion fruit fortune cookies.
And that was smart because
Mochi covered strawberries.
Yeah, because fortune cookies were made for white people.
Yeah, and Mochi covered strawberries. Maggie was so deliriously happy.
And that pun, that is the best pun ever. I like big bunts and I cannot pie.
Yes, but Maggie's reaction to the Mochi covered strawberries is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
That was
the way through the very subtle. I just hope you get to the mochi.
Mochis, yeah.
It's like, oh, if I need to drop something, I'll drop the mochi. And she's like, I hope you get to the mochi. It's like, I want you to do mochi. I want you to make mochi. And it's like, after a while, Jaywin's like,
I guess I'm doing the mochi.
I'm making the mochi.
Okay, lesson, and no pecans, no cherry. If you promise Maggie mochi, you better deliver the mochi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She did it all for the mochi. She did it all for the mochi.
Stately beer manner, just coated in mochi.
Mochi, yeah, well, that's all there is. But, Jaywen, you know. I don't just say it anymore. You know. Can you please stop using it? I know you've threatened to send me some. He's threatened to send me matcha. Don't you laugh? You'd be in the house with it as well.
I know, but I wouldn't be as mortally, offended as some people in this household.
No matcha. Anyway, Nerman. So Nerman decided to go with some Taste of Tasmania. So he went with he's using brie and white chocolate in the tartlets, the pepperberry and leatherwood honey twirls, and then his blondie. And that was the whole... The brie and white chocolate combo with the balsamic cherry compote.
That looked amazing.
He does like making a tart or a tartlet. He really does. And
everyone loves a tart.
Yes, they do. I thought, though, the way that this is when I talk about that sophisticated look that he was going for.
Yeah.
I think this was really quite...
Elevated.
It was elevated.
It was...
I mean, the blondie doesn't need to be elevated.
Sophisticated.
You don't need to make an elevated blondie. You actually want your blondie to stay, a little bit down. But the rest of it, again, just the watching him make those pepperberry twirls, they looked really damn good. And I hate twirls. I hate twirls.
Blondie, I really prefer blondie more punk than anything else. You don't want it informal or whatever. You really want your blondie punk.
So you like punk blondie?
Yes.
You're not a big fan of when blondie goes rap?
Look, everyone's a fan of when blondie goes rap because it's so unexpected.
Yeah,
so
Fab Five Freddy told her everyone's fly. DK that ever said, my. Caramel. So caramel Mikasa Sukasa. Now this is the most mafioso that Caramel's ever been. Because between this and then Aaron coming at the Italian for making biscotti, this is the most. She's like, you don't come at the family. And you're right. She's right. You don't.
And then a mandolin starts playing in the background.
Lemon and ricotta cakes. You come at me on the day of my first wedding. Lemon and ricotta cakes, chocolate and hazelnut biscotti, and fudge. Now, look, we will talk a lot more, obviously, about caramels and then to caramel, obviously, but we need to talk about, well, possibly the greatest nickname anyone's ever been given.
Yes.
And Aaron was talking about the fact that obviously at his rugby club, he's the secretary of his rugby club, and every time there's a meeting, he brings different dishes and he puts things together. And he has now officially been nicknamed the Snackretary.
Which is fabulous. And
Now-
that is perfect.
Now, as you can imagine, Twitter greatly enjoys this term, the Snackretary.
Look, I think...
And not necessarily based purely on baking. Aaron is fitting the Snackretary component for a large community online.
Okay.
He is indeed the Snackretary.
Right. I think I'm getting your inference that he's a bit of a thirst trap, but he's going to serve you up a bit of
baked goods as well.
Therefore, he's a full snack.
He's a double Snackretary.
Yeah. Well, like Lizzo says, I'm not the damn snack, I'm the whole damn meal. Yes.
But I absolutely love the idea of his nickname being the Snackretary. It's like, and then he can be the Snackretary of Defence if he, did that.
If he's playing that position.
If he's playing mixed netball, he can be the Snackretary of Defence. Again,
if they want to redo the secretary with Maggie Gyllenhaal as the Snackretary, just some very,
perfectly done.
Some kinky snacks there.
You could also have with the Snackretary if
I think all the snacks would just be 3 green peas and a spoon of mashed potato.
If he spends all his time travelling the countryside, he could become the Snackretary of State.
Oh.
Again, there's so many Snackretary offerings there and openings. I think that's a good nickname. Now, the Snackretary was making blueberry and lemon and cranberry and pistachio biscotti, which is where he was talking about, I'm confident of being better at this than Caramel is. And it was, again, you could hear the mandolin start up at that point. The amaretti biscuits, and of course, he made this panna cotta. And the panna cotta looked incredible.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 Italian elements right there, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Well, 3, amaretti.
3. Oh, and amaretti. Whoa, he really came at you, Caramel. Yeah,
the Snackretary. If the Snackretary comes at the family, better not miss.
Yes.
So I will say, as much as I disagree with Matcha, the shaping of the mooncakes was very pretty.
Yeah, and
that design was so cool.
And Jaywin's, apart from Aaron's, was one of the ones that looked like a charcuterie board.
I think Aaron and Jaywin looked the closest to an actual charcuterie board.
Yeah.
They point out that Newman's blondie was soft. I don't mind that. I don't need the blondie to be as firm as a brownie. It shouldn't be. It should have that give to it.
I think it's much of a muchness, you know, like all brownies and blondies are good brownies and blondies as far as I'm concerned, soft, hard, whatever. You don't want it too dry though.
Although, as I will point out, we did talk before about your lack of enthusiasm around white chocolate.
Yeah.
But one of the best dessert things we've ever tasted
is
the white chocolate blondie from the dessert cafe when it turns up. That's incredible.
It is really good. So, okay, I do like white chocolate when it's done well, but it's an ingredient.
You've got to get it right.
Yeah, it can't just be used willy-nilly.
Now...
Or Willie Nelson.
It can't be used Willie Nelson.
I don't know what that means, but I'm sure someone will come up with a
definition. It can't be used like a red-headed stranger. Anyway, with 1 hour to go, Hoda's slice wasn't working. She was doing coconut, so she was doing the coconut passion fruit and lemon slice, the pomegranate molasses bunts, mini bunts, and a rocky road.
Yeah.
Now, the coconut passion fruit and lemon slice, she puts it in, didn't quite work. And this is where we've talked a lot about pushing and growth and stuff like that. And we said, I really don't like that narrative. I really dislike the whole thing. If you want to talk about growth, this is the example of growth for Hoda that is tangible.
She just showed some tenacity and made a very quick decision.
Yeah,
and
1 hour to go.
Yeah.
Dumps it.
Yep.
And goes, doing that again, that's not right.
Yep. And she knew it was on the line. Like when I was watching, I'm like, oh, this is going to be out for Star Baker if you can't get this right. And I'm glad that she went back and tried it again because that.
And yeah, the second time she did it, she looked at it. She's like, that looks a lot better.
Well done.
And Aaron summed up, I think, a lot of the country, especially this week when he unmolded his panna cotta, looked at it and went, "Oh, it's a little bit broken."
Aren't we all, Aaron? Aren't we all? Look, it's been a time. You know, between...
Oh, this week's been a month.
You know, between wars breaking out in fucking Ukraine. Speaking of which, check out all the bakes going on for the Canadian bakers.
Yep.
You know, supporting Nat and her family. You know, as we know, the previous winner of Bake Off is Ukrainian and has lots of family and friends over there. So, yeah, please check them out and support. And, yeah, between the floods here in Australia, I mean, go and support them too if you can. Or just support yourselves. Just be kind. Just dry out and be kind.
Be kind, rewind.
Maybe make a sacrifice to whichever gods you think will stop the catastrophic events going along around the world. And maybe vote for people who will help stop the catastrophic things or at least be able to respond to them in a timely manner. Yeah.
Anyway, to move on to happier things.
Yes.
Ella's plating.
Yes.
I thought the plating was clever.
Yeah.
The spilt milk in particular, I thought was.
And it just, yeah, like you could look at that and you knew exactly the story it was telling. So wunderbar and tasted good too.
Yeah, I thought it was really clever. I thought that the way she's like, this is what my kids would do at home. And again, if you looked at it too, there was more to it. So some of the toast squares, she chopped some of them so they look half eaten and put them on the plate further around too.
Oh, okay.
So she moved stuff around as well, so it wasn't presented absolutely pristinely because, of course, it wouldn't be presented in the same way.
No.
So I thought that was very clever, and I thought it was very
beautifully done.
Very well done indeed. And then the challenge ended. Mm-hmm. And when the challenge ended, Aaron walks over and Hoda's like, "Oh my God, that was really hard." And Aaron goes over and gives her a big hug and goes, "It's okay. Charcuterie can never hurt you again." Now, Aaron, how dare you besmirch the fine name of charcuterie?
Yeah.
When does charcuterie ever hurt?
Like, unless you're a vegetarian.
Or, you know...
Or the actual animals being created to make the charcuterie.
I don't think she is, so...
No, I don't think...
There's no example of either of those two things.
No.
So it can't hurt her. So the judging. Matt and Maggie both gave each... When they had Hoda's, Matt and Maggie both gave each other a look when they tasted the slice. There was a moment, like, Matt ate it and looked at Maggie, who hadn't eaten it yet, and Maggie looked at it, like, she had bit, and she looked back at Matt and was like,
Yeah.
The mini bunts are absolutely nice, and I love them when the mini bunts and then the storm hits and she's like, "What have you brought us, Hoda?"
The wrath of God.
The other thing that Matt did comment on, which I thought was interesting, was he commented on the use of coconut in the Rocky Road, which he said stopped it from being ultra sweet.
But your mum puts coconut in her Rocky Road.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, so...
Classy.
Yeah, and glacé cherry.
Indeed.
A little bit of mint.
Yep.
To make it Christmassy.
So, Jaywin, Maggie was delirious about the damn mochi.
Yeah.
Like, she was just, oh my God, the mochi. The fortunes were great. I like big bunts and I cannot pie. I love Matt's when he opens it up, looks and goes, "Can I be Star Baker?" The cookies were great. The mochi was absolutely fabulous. The mooncake was lovely. Matt didn't like the mix of the brownie. Said it was still a little bit floury and that was a bit of an issue. But a great effort overall. And Maggie's like, those fortune cookies are possibly the best part of your whole platter.
Yeah.
Caramels looked good. Matt did give us the only moment really where I got a little bit shitty, where he said something more desserty. What on that plate was not desserty?
But there was nothing that wasn't already on other people's plates, like Aaron's.
Exactly.
Or...
Yep.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I thought that the something more desserty line was bullshit. The ricotta cakes were absolutely awesome. Maggie loved those, the lemon ricotta cakes. The fudge was really nice, but they said it was very rich. They just
But
also...
fudge is supposed to be rich.
Exactly. They also said that the biscotti was too hard.
That's the point where I think it was okay.
Yeah.
Between the too much nay and the hard biscotti.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Nerman, they said the twirl was the perfect blend, and Maggie sort of made noises while she was eating it.
Yeah.
The blondie was soft from the apple that Nerman put in there, but they said the flavour actually carried it, so they were like, don't worry about how soft it is because the apple's really nice. The brie tartlets had the best pastry Matt had seen Nerman make. Matt wanted a little bit more sweetness on top, but they thought it was ultra creative. And Maggie again was making sounds eating the tart. She really loved Nerman's bake.
Yeah, no, I was looking at this and I'm like, no one's had a bad week. Like, there's just been some bad moments.
That was a great week.
Everyone's amazing.
Ella, they said it was well presented. It was really amazing. They loved the burnt butter. The Fruit Loops were flavourful and really nice. Matt wanted the toast a little bit flatter.
I don't think we kind of waxed lyrical enough about Maggie's response to when Ella was burning the butter. And like the melted butter in the pan.
And then they turn around and Mel and they're like, "You know, burnt butter too." And she goes, "Yep, I burn that butter and then I throw it out and we start again."
But it was like both Maggie's happy places, mochi and butter, just
just perfect. Like she could have dipped the mochi in the burnt butter, right, and then topped it with a fig.
Okay, someone now needs to make a burnt butter mochi thing for Maggie.
Yeah, with fig.
Fig.
Yep.
And some verjuice.
Yeah, Matt wanted the toast flatter, which I thought was, yeah, sure, whatever. And the Vegemite and the chocolate, which I think was the only thing that they were not 100% happy with, because as Matt said, it just tasted like Vegemite, which, he didn't criticise, but it was chocolate, yeah. Aaron, they said it was a very packed tray, and Aaron's like, yeah, you want me to cut back, but I think at this once I'd ignore you.
It's a charcuterie. It's supposed to be packed.
There was a Maggie nudge on the biscotti and the panna cotta and dipping it, and then Matt was trying to be very, very stoic and whatever, and then he dunked it and went, oh wow, and it's like, okay, that's pretty good. Matt said that the panna cotta was delightfully light, and they said the amaretti was very good as well. So Star Baker this week.
Look, well deserved.
Look, Hoda has, and I said we've sort of said all the way along there's areas where she needs to develop, and there have been moments where she's developed quite well. There are still things she's learning, but this is easily her best week.
Absolutely.
And easily she deserves Star Baker this week.
Yep,
so
well done.
100%. And the home, look, we've said in the last couple of weeks that we think there's been a bit of commentary and stuff that's not been fair to Carmel, but this week Carmel was the right choice to go home as well. Yeah. Like, and that's not because she was horrific. As we said, this week,
just moments.
Everyone was good.
Absolutely. And it was literally just a couple of elements.
Yeah. And as we always say, you want to go home on a week where everyone's good.
But that's what we want to see in Bake Off. We want to see that, it's not because people are horrific or whatever. No. There are just, differences. And someone has to go
Maggie's
home.
comment was, someone's got to go.
Yeah. And at this time of the competition particularly, we were down to 6 people, we're now down to 5. that's what we want to be seeing leading up to the finale.
Exactly. You want people to be going home. Things are really good, and just someone has to be the person to leave.
Yeah.
So, that's it for this week, and it's been what a week. So, we will be back, hopefully.
God's willing.
Thursday. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to say Thursday definitely.
Okay.
But I can't guarantee you.
This is the equivalent of going, this is our week. Like, don't do that.
Thursday definitely, but the other episodes, question mark, but will happen. Until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
We'll catch you all later.
Now, I just want to caveat this. I can't guarantee we'll be out next Thursday because who the fuck knows what will happen. So I'm just going to say, we'll see you when we see you. Love yous.